Hey YouTube land, Tycondrius here, doing another action figure review. And today we're doing a review of, well, it's another Warhammer 40,000 figure. And it is a Gold Label collection figure from McFarlane. Now, if you're not familiar with McFarlane toys, the Gold Label figures are store exclusives. And as far as I can tell, this one was, I think, an Amazon exclusive, because I picked one up on Amazon. So that's Amazon US. I'm not sure if it was Target exclusive in the US as well, but it's supposed to be a store exclusive. Generally, the gold labels are a specific store exclusive. Sometimes it might be more than one store, but it generally tends to be just the one. So this is for, if I bring around the box, this is for the Chaos Space Marine. And it is the Word Bearer Chaos Space Marine. Now, he comes in the standard packaging, so he does have a couple of accessories. I'm just going to move him off to the side while I bring in the box, just to get a closer look. So you can see there's the Gold Label, McFarlane Gold Label collection up here in the corner. His base is in behind. I haven't taken it out because, like anyone who collects any of the McFarlane stuff, you'll have a plethora of spare bases if you don't use them on the figure, so they're exactly the same as that. You just have the 40,000 Warhammer 40,000 logo, just kind of Adepta Mechanica stuff all along the side, just for the look and feel of the box. And then you have the official licensed product stuff on the bottom, and then all the legalese stuff all over the bottom as well. Now, before I proceed with the figure, I will note that I did find a whole bunch of these guys in my local store, toy store over here called Smith's Toys, which is really rare because generally they don't tend to go for the collectible kind of era stuff. They tend to just get, you know, gimmicky kids stuff, or kind of things like the Spin Masters, Batman, that kind of stuff, you know, more, what would you say, age appropriate stuff. Now they have started branching out into kind of anime figures as well, and in amongst all the anime figures was this guy and the Chaos Traitor Guardsman from the Dark Tide game. What is interesting to note is that on their website they don't have this guy listed. They just have the Dark Tide figure for the Traitor Guardsman. They don't even have the Loyalist Guardsman. They just have the Traitor Guardsman, and they don't even have the Ogren, or the Ogren, whichever way you want to pronounce it. So if you're looking for the Gold Label guy here in Ireland and possibly UK, you can just go to Smith's. They should have them. So now he does come with 3 accessories that are loose in the box, one of which is this plasma pistol, the other one which is the thing that just fell off him, and I'll get to that in a second. And he comes with a power ball, which is pretty sweet. If you're a fan of the Loyalist Space Marines, you could probably use this with the normal Space Marines. To be fair, it looks fairly brutal with the spikes on it. Regular Space Marines have been known to wield stuff just as brutal looking as this. Okay, you do have some kind of almost chaos iconography on it, which is unpainted. You could file off this kind of these spikes on the bottom, but even normal Space Marines, Loyalist Space Marines, would have something just as brutal as one of these. They do use power mauls as well, but this is supposedly the Word Bearer's version. The plasma pistol is nice, although unpainted. It is a shame that they didn't throw any paint apps into it. If I just grab I have the Dark Angel figure here. I think he might have been a Gold Label as well, I can't remember. Actually, no, he wasn't. He's just a standard Dark Angel. You can see they actually did do paint apps on his plasma pistol. The Chaos one is kind of plain and boring in the sense that there's no paint apps on him. Most of the paint apps went into the figure itself. So the figure, I will say straight out of the bat, the head on this figure isn't the best. Not saying that sculpting wise is bad on it. It is the paint apps are kind of subpar, but then again, it is a 20 quid or a $20 figure in the States, so you're paying for what you get. Now mine has a bit of paint bleed here on the respirator area. It kind of has gone over onto him, but he has the Word Bearer's iconography on his shoulder, and he does have the exhaust pack, or the power pack, That does tend to, on my one, actually on the both of them that I got, this thing you just have to just tip it and it falls off. It doesn't hold well. I'm not sure if it's because there was an issue with the way they were molded, but he does tend to be a little bit back heavy with it on, but you can generally tend to get that kind of sorted out. But he does, this thing just slightest sneeze, it'll fall off. Now if I bring in the Black Legion guy, I'm pretty sure I did a review for this one. The Black Legion guy, his backpack clicks into place practically, and it's very hard to fall off. This guy, a couple of shakes and it just flies off. So just be wary of that. And it is the same on both versions of this guy that I have. Now, before I proceed on to articulation, he is pretty much the exact same as the other Chaos Space Marine. One thing to note is, if you bought the artist proof version of the Chaos Space Marine, the regular Chaos Space Marine, this is pretty much what it is. It's the artist proof one painted, with the exception of on the artist proof, you have this shoulder pad with the skull. They actually put it on this side, and this spiked shoulder pad is actually on this side on the artist proof. So essentially it's the same figure. Even the weapons are the same. It's the plasma pistol and the power maul are the exact same weapons you get with the artist proof version, and you have that kind of unpainted head with the one spike coming off its head. So if I bring in the old tape measure, you see this guy stands just around 7.5 inches. If you go to by the, well, it's a little bit around 7, just over 7, and about 7.5 if you go for the very tippy top of the spike here on his head. So he is he's tall enough, but he has all the same articulation as the standard Space Marine. So the arms are on ball joints, the shoulder pad is on a ball joint to give you clearance. Head can move up, down, rotate side to side. There is some tilt on it. I'm just going to leave this off because it's just going to fall off the minute I start moving him around. His upper torso is on a ball joint. His lower waist is on a ball joint, so you get some ab crunch. Not much, but you can get a reasonable amount of ab crunch. He has the dual jointed arms. He has the bicep swivel. He has that standard McFarlane rocker arm thing going on, or the wrist thing. So you have to find where, if you look just in here, you can see where the articulation point is, but if you move it around, it will move that articulation point as well. So the wrists can swivel independently of that joint, and then if you want to hinge them up, you just have to find which way you want it to hinge. So you can hinge it up, or if you rotate it around the right way, you can hinge it. It's not going to do it for me, is it? You can hinge it in and out. So it just depends on which way you align that joint on the arm. He has one trigger finger hand on this side. He has a gripping hand on this side. Now, what's interesting is, or what's handy is, that McFarlane didn't cheap out. I kind of like what they did with the Space Marine. The Black Legion Chaos Space Marine just has a plain, regular Space Marine open palm hand instead of this kind of spiked one. So if I bring in my good old trusty Dark Angel again, you can see they actually gave him the proper kind of spiked one with the little spikes on it. Not a big deal breaker. You could have easily just done the one without the spikes. Chaos Space Marines are known for having like variations on their armor and stuff. Oh, and the other thing, yeah, so on the legs, you can see the legs are exactly the same as the Black Legion one. The only difference is they swapped over the knees, so the skull face icon is on his right instead of left, and vice versa. His belt is different to the Black Legion. It is very similar in design. The only main difference is, as far as I can tell, this star icon piece is a separate piece to the actual belt. So the belt is glued in place, but on the Space Marine, on the regular Black Legion one, it has this extra loop that is part of this buckle piece that holds the knife, or combat knife. I think it's supposed to be a combat knife compared to a sword, but it's nearly the size of a sword to like a regular guardsman. And we can just grab it out of there without breaking the figure. Bear with me a moment. Come on. Just going to be a bit problematic, isn't it? There we go. So if you have this knife for the Black Legion guy, this word bearers will hold it fairly nicely in his grippy hand. So you have that option if you want to kind of mix and match a bit and not have them all with the same stuff. Even the bolter that comes with the Black Legion Chaos Space Marine will fit nicely into the hands, or into the grip hand of the word bearer. Now, if you're not familiar with the word bearers, they're one of the Chaos Traitor Legions. There's several different legions of Traitor Space Marines. Word bearers tend to be one of the more popular ones. Black Legion, word bearers, who else? Iron Hands. Iron Hands? Oh, Iron Warriors, sorry. And there's a couple of other ones. Alpha Legion are all kind of like, you have your mainstay ones, which are like the Thousand Suns, the Khorne Berserkers, which are like all dedicated to each of the 4 Chaos Gods. So you have Nurgle, Death Guard, Tzeentch, or Thousand Suns, Slanesh, or Emperor's Children, or Noise Marines, or yeah, Noise Marines. And then you had the, who am I leaving out? Tzeentch, Nurgle, Tzeentch, Nurgle, Slanesh, and Khorne. Khorne are the world eaters who became the Berserkers. So you have like the main kind of ones, and then you have secondary Space Marine chapters that became Chaos followers, and this is one of those. So paint apps aren't too bad. As I said, the head isn't the best painted. It is fairly plain. Legs have that forward and back, dual jointed knees, and you have the rocker ankle kind of thing for the boots, and you have the peg hole and a little toe hinge. So you have all those nice articulation points for this guy. And I'm going to throw his backpack in for the time being. I'm going to stand him up here because I do have another comparison to bring in. So if you're like me and you like your guys with a little bit more paint, bump. Here is my slightly more modified version of this guy. So I didn't go too crazy on it. I gave a small bit of paint apps to the plasma pistol. I might do some paint apps onto the maul. Again, this guy just has the same issue with his backpack, as I said. Of course, now it's not going to do it, is it? It does tend to be a little bit more secure than the other one, but even with the slightest tap or just moving them around, it does fall off. And of course, now that I have him in screen, it will just stay on him. Oh, the backpack on these guys, I haven't touched the backpack on this one, so he's pretty much as standard. So you have this dark gray bulk metal up here. You got this more silver metal on the main part of it, and you have this all unpainted section. It would have been cool, like I will probably do it, go back and paint all these things. Like these should all be silvered. This cog in the center, I think, is generally silver on these guys. These little bolts are silvered. Like you could go to town adding extra paint apps on this guy just to make him look that bit more menacing and cool looking. For what he is, the standard eyes, he isn't too bad. And grab his backpack off so you can get close to the head that I painted. So for this guy's head, I didn't go to town too much on it. I just gave him a couple of washes of, over this pale color, I just gave it a couple of washes of, is it Gilman, not Gilman Flesh, what's the Reichland Flesh Shade. I just washed it over his head a couple of times, and then while it was still a little bit wet, I kind of got was it Mephiston Reds and slightly watered it down and just added it to the horn part and just a couple of the other parts around. I left it a bit more thicker on this and mixed it with a bit of for the kind of scarring. I mixed Mephiston Red with a little bit of Cadian's Flesh Tone just to give it that more skin tony look, just to make it look like it's a healed scar kind of thing. And then on the back of the head, there's a couple of weird piping things kind of going through his head, so I kind of gave it a couple of hits with that mix as well. And just on the edges of the rebreather thing where it looks like it's kind of been molded onto his head, because if you look at the sides of it, it looks like it's like part of his head as opposed to now being a separate piece. So I did go to town a little bit on the head, just give it, pop it, make it a pop a little bit better. As you can see, the two of them side by side, just that extra little, not overly, or like I have seen people completely repaint this head to match what they want, but like you don't have to go completely overboard on it. You can do just subtle hints on it, and or subtle paint apps on it will work quite nicely. If you have the standard Astartes chainsword as well, these guys should be able to hold them nicely enough. Now they won't look chaosy. This is the one off the the Dark Angel who I just had there on screen. So it doesn't look too bad because it's red. It kind of matches the color scheme anyway, but like it won't look chaosy, if you know what I mean. If you're a follower of if you're a fan of Warhammer 40,000, you know what I mean by a chaosy chainsword. Usually they're adorned with all these iconography and stuff like that, so it'll look a little bit plain. Again, if you're handy with either 3D printing, you could probably 3D print weapons up for these guys. I've seen people 3D print extra helmets, all manner of stuff, even backpacks. I've seen someone take, was it one of these guys? I'm not sure if it was the Chaos Space Marine or it was the Standard Space Marine, and completely rebuild it from the ground up to look like the Space Marines from the old, or the Chaos Space Marine from the old Space Crusade game, and that looked phenomenal. It looked really, really cool. So, oh, and one other thing I should mention, one big difference between the artist proof and this painted version is the backpack. The pack that comes with the artist proof version, instead of these kind of baubles on the side with the venting, it actually has skulls that are like a skull print on them, which is pretty cool. So there is that main kind of difference. It's not just a straight up repaint or painted version of the artist proof version of the Chaos Space Marine. So there is slight differences between the two, but overall it's not a bad figure. So just for scale references, I'm going to bring in a couple of my Space Marines. Unfortunately, I don't have, I think all my, the Orcs and the Necrons and all the Xenoth stuff are all over in a different place. And if you bear with me a moment, I do have one of the Adept or Sisters of Battle Hand, so I'll just grab that. Unfortunately, she doesn't have her weapons, but you can just see a scale of the Sisters of Battle with the Chaos Space Marine. She is a little smaller, which is the way they should be. Now, she does look nearly the same size on screen if I'm looking at her, but she is actually smaller, so she's kind of standing away a bit further in front of them. So, perspective-wise, she'll look a little taller. But there we go. If you get her standing side by side, they are nearly a couple of inches taller, or like an inch or so taller, so they'd be a bit taller than her overall. So really cool figure. If you can get them, they're not too bad. I wouldn't recommend going overboard and paying way overpriced for them, because I know the Gold Label stuff tends to sell for ludicrous prices. Especially like the DC Gold Label stuff tends to go way over the price, the €20 or the $20 price point. These guys seem to be in plentiful supply here in Ireland and possibly Europe at the moment with Smith's Toys. If you have a Smith's Toys, they should have them at the time of this recording, so you don't have to rush out and buy them from the States and get caught with import fees and all that kind of lovely stuff. But there you go, guys. I hope you enjoyed this quick video review hopefully it's a quick video review for the Chaos Space Marine Word Bearer. He's a pretty cool figure. If you're a fan of the actual, that chapter or Legion, he's pretty cool. If you're not a fan of that Legion and you just wanted a painted version of the artist proof where you don't have to go overboard and painting the joints on them, because the one thing I find with the artist proof stuff, they're cool, but paint rub is going to be a big issue if you're not too great with painting, customizing figures. He is a good starting point because he's pretty much the same thing as the artist proof figure. So if you repaint them, you could just repaint the panels where they don't meet any of the joints, so you could get away with it that way. Same thing with the kind of Space Marines. If you're not a big fan of like the standard Space Marine stuff. You can pick up some of the painted ones, repaint over the armor. It's the great thing about these guys. Even the Sisters of Battle, you can disassemble them with a bit of hot water and or blow dryer, whichever way you want to disassemble them, and then repaint or customize them to your heart's content. So there you go, guys. As always, please feel free to like, comment and subscribe to my channel, and I hope you enjoy this video review. Cheers, guys.